Well, I think it is important for every musician to look also abroad, not just in your own country and culture, but also in others. What kind of good music is there? And the idea of the CD was to stay in the same period of music, to have impressionistic time, and I wanted to show four different pieces from four different countries, all more or less written in the same time, same period and same style. They are all impressionistic pieces. How different they are, but also how similar they are. Well, especially the Chausson, the Respighi, and the Vaughan Williams, they are very similar, and they are all poems. The Suk is a little bit different. It's a fantasy, and it's actually almost more violin concerto. The Suk, the Vaughan Williams, the Respighi, and the Chausson, they are really poem pieces. They all start very soft. They all finish very soft. So they start with the same theme as they end with the same theme. So that actually is also in common with the Suk. The Suk also starts with the same theme as it ends, and with a huge development in the middle. But it doesn't start soft. It starts very loud and it ends very loud. The Suk. Yeah, they are very many similar things between those pieces. Yeah. In this repertoire, you can't really say this was written for this violinist and this was written for that violinist. Maybe a little bit the Chausson poem, but otherwise, um, there are other pieces. For example, if you look at the six sonatas by Isaïe, and you play them, then by the sonata you play, you can tell for which violinist this was actually written. It's very obvious why he wrote number one for Josef Suk and why he wrote number three for Georges Enescu. So in this repertoire, I can't really say that you can tell for whom it was written. But you can tell immediately, I think, from which country the composer came. You can tell immediately that Suk is a Czech composer, that this is really typical Czech themes. And Chausson is obviously a French piece, and the Vaughan Williams, you can immediately see English countryside, and the Respighi is very Italian. So you can really tell the countries. Suk writes really very well for the violin. Yeah, you can tell. It's also very difficult. The Suk is definitely the most difficult piece of the CD. But it's also a lot of fun to play. You can really tell that he knew how to treat the violin. And the Respighi is maybe even it sounds maybe the most difficult piece, but actually it's almost the easiest piece to play. It's really fantastically written. The violin just sounds great everywhere in this piece, and you can also tell by the fact that there are no balance problems. I mean, in the Chausson, when you play it in concert, there's very often a balance problem that the orchestra is too loud and too heavy, and you actually want to play with a very soft sound, very flautando, very pianissimo, and it's not possible because orchestra is not capable of playing that soft. And with the Respighi and the Suk, that's not the case. It's really fantastically written. In the Respighi, the double stops are written in a very poetic way, but I would add the Chausson to that. The Chausson also with its chords is in a very poetic way. Immediately in the opening cadenza, you have double stops immediately, and not as a technical or virtuoso part of the piece, but as a poetic part. The idea for this CD was actually born a very, very long time ago. In 1999, I was asked by Italian conductor Giuseppe Sinopoli to record the Respighi Poema autunnale with him. And the CD then didn't take place and was moved, and then actually Giuseppe Sinopoli died, so we never had the possibility to make this recording. But I learned the piece, and I immediately sensed that this is really a great piece, a fantastic piece. And for a very long time, I was thinking about how I could combine it on an entire CD with which pieces, what makes sense. Of course, you can make it an Italian CD and then combine it with some Paganini, but that somehow doesn't feel right for the piece. So I had this idea of doing an impressionistic CD. Now, the Suk fantasy, to me, is very well known because my mother is from Czech Republic, Czechoslovakian Republic. She studied in Prague. And so the Suk fantasy I knew when I was 5, 6 years old. I knew that before I knew Sibelius or Tchaikovsky violin concerto. And I was quite surprised when I figured out later on that this is actually not a very well-known piece. I mean, my household, it was so well-known, and outside of my home, nobody knew who Josef Suk was. And so I first had an idea of doing a Czech CD to combine it with Dvořák Violin Concerto, which is very known. But then I actually thought that it also has so many impressionistic sides that it totally would make sense to combine it with the Respighi. And then the idea came up to do it also with Chausson, Poème and Vaughan Williams' Lark Ascending. It is very easy to program the Chausson Poème because automatically you have to add another piece to it, and usually it is Rondo Capriccioso by Saint-Saëns or Tzigane by Maurice Ravel. And of course, all the presenters are very happy with that programming. So Chausson Poème is probably the piece which is most often played from the CD. The Suk Fantasy I managed to program once in Lisbon and once in Monte-Carlo when we did the recording. It is actually not fair that the Suk is not being programmed more often, simply because it is actually longer than Glazunov Violin Concerto. It's also longer than the first Violin Concerto by Sergei Prokofiev. It really is a one-movement violin concerto in its own length. It's almost 25 minutes long. So there is totally no reason why not to program it. The problem is it's a very difficult piece for the orchestra. You need a fantastic first-class conductor to play this piece. And as said before, it's technically really demanding. So it's not something you can learn very quickly and then do in one rehearsal with the orchestra and everybody is happy. But you really need to dedicate time to this piece, and you have to find, of course, an orchestra and a conductor who's willing to do so. But now, having done the CD, I'm really hoping to be able to program, especially the Suk, more often. Josef Suk has a wonderful feeling for the orchestra, definitely. I mean, you can tell immediately that he's Dvořák's pupil, not only by the orchestration, but also by the themes and the way of harmonies, how they are being used. You can especially tell it by the French horn, of course, which Dvořák loved and used very often in his symphony. And immediately after the opening line of the solo violin, the horn has its first big title to play. So you can tell that he is Dvořák's pupil, and he orchestrated this piece really well. Yeah, this is a very young Suk. Yes, he was still also very happy. He has very happy moments in this piece. Although it ends very dramatically, it doesn't. There's not a happy ending in this piece. But in the middle of the piece, you can definitely tell that he had very happy moments. The main theme of the second part of this piece is very Czech. It's very slow. It's in G major. It starts very beautiful. Only the string section introducing this theme, and then the solo violin takes it over, and then actually variations on this theme happen, and it is all definitely with a smile on his face. Yeah. People forget that music can be fun as well. We are living in a time where we, for some reason, decided to make a difference between popular music and serious music, and that is very unfortunate because classical music is not automatically just deadly serious music. It can also be fun and it can also be very enjoyable, and it would be nice to show that also to the audience, and if also the presenters would, and of course also the musicians. I mean, they are the ones who are most responsible for it. And I'm not taking myself out of that, but if I'm making a recital program, then automatically it's a program of 3 sonatas. It's just that the way I was brought up. But it would make sense to question if this is really the right way of programming a recital, and if it would not be nicer to sometimes also have a recital program, maybe even made out only of fun pieces, or to have a recital program where one part is maybe out of sonatas and the second half is virtuoso. I think that this CD is really made for not only for the concert stage, but really if you sit at home and you try to have an enjoyable evening, then even for that the repertoire really makes sense. The Respighi is so fun, you know, to listen to. It's fun to play, but also it's really great fun. It has fantastic rhythm. It's almost like a movie soundtrack, actually. If you in the middle of it, you can hear the Harry Potter soundtrack. So it's a CD really not just for the deadly serious moment at 8 o'clock in the evening, and now something very philosophical is going to happen, but it's also a CD made for the moment when you're just enjoying life. Yakov doesn't accompany me. He knows what I'm doing, and he's immediately communicating this to the orchestra. But it's not that he thinks, okay, she wants to do this, so I'm going to follow her. But he wants the same thing. And so there's no rehearsal between conductor and soloist necessary. There's not necessary to talk about something. Sometimes it's very funny in rehearsals with him because of course, it also happens to us that sometimes he's behind or in front or something. And I remember in the Suk at some point, I stopped in the rehearsal and I said that, you know, you're really behind here. And he said, yeah, I know, but I thought that you wanted to so slow. I don't want it so slow. And I said, I don't want it so slow either. Just do what you think is right and it will be fine. And of course it was fine because for some reason, I think it has something to do with the fact that in music if you study music, there's an intellectual part and there's an emotional part. And the question is what's the mixture between those two? How a musician works. And the mixture between intellectual and emotional work with Yakov and me is exactly the same. And therefore, we understand each other without talking and without discussing things. Well, if Yakov would be sitting here, he would tell you that music is something completely physical for him, and that's why he became a conductor. A conductor has to have this physical need to express music. He listens to something and he immediately has to show it physically. An instrumentalist doesn't necessarily agree with that because you have your instrument to express yourself. And there are many different musicians, different kind of musicians. Some move around a lot, some don't move at all. So it's very, I think, very different between the musicians, how you feel. And I know that, for example, when I sit in a concert, and when I listen to music, it happens very rarely that I feel that I have to conduct with the music now, or that I have to move around. I'm very comfortable just sitting there and just listening to the music. So for me, it doesn't necessarily have a physical aspect. Yes, I know the Orchestra Philharmonic de Monte-Carlo since 2000, actually. I played with him for the first time when Marek Janowski was appointed chief conductor, and I played with him a Sibelius concerto. And since I have a very close relationship with Marek Janowski as well, I played actually almost every season in Monte Carlo until Yakov became chief conductor, and now I'm there every season because Yakov is chief conductor. So I know the orchestra very well. They have fantastic players, and especially for this repertoire, they were really great. It was fantastic to work with them. This orchestra has wonderful individual players, especially in the woodwind section and French horn and trumpet and so on. But besides that, their string section, the first violins, they really sound great, and so they are capable of many different colors, which is very important in impressionistic repertoire, and they are capable of being really, really super pianissimo if necessary, and then also very dramatic if necessary. And so I played the Respighi actually for the first time now when I recorded the piece, and we also played it in concert before. And it was very interesting because we started in the first rehearsal and we all didn't have any clue, and it didn't really sound so well in the first rehearsal, and we didn't understand what to do. And then over the next 2 days, everybody kind of understood what we were doing. And then when we recorded it, we were done in an hour. It was really quick because we really grew together so well. And then the recording, for some reason, was very easy to do. And the Respighi was maybe even the most fun piece to play. I have one fixed plan, which is to record Dvorak Violin Concerto and the Martineau Violin Concerto in Zurich with the Tonhalle Zurich and David Zinman.